One second. So Michael Harris is going to speak next, except I just want to really quickly give Aleda a chance to speak up. Aleda was not originally one of our planned panelists. Aleda, I'm going to make you a co-host real quick. She has something to tell us about MITA.
Hi, everyone. Madison International Trade Association. So it's a trade association based right in the Madison area. We have a part-time paid administrative assistant. So even though we're a volunteer organization, board members made up from different companies in the whole area of Southeast and Madison area, we do have some paid assistance once in a while, because if any of you have been involved in even student projects or projects at your own work, and sometimes you get volunteered to do a lot of other things that are related to your work, but they require some extra time. So all of us on the board of Madison International Trade Association work full-time or part-time at area companies, but our interest is always about global business and global trade. And I'll just mention, we say Madison International Trade Association, but we say MITA for short. So it's the short I. Is that the short I, MITA? Yes, the short I for all of you language folks. My name's Aleda Bourassa, and I've been involved in global business for a pretty long time. And I know lots of companies across the whole state of Wisconsin, and got involved with the Madison Trade Association many years ago. Then I sort of switched gears and did some other things within global trade. And then about 9 years ago, I think it is now, I joined MITA again, and I joined as a board member. The kinds of things that our company members are involved in have to do with importing and exporting goods and services. And I think you've talked a little bit about that perhaps. So for example, there's a couple of well-known companies, Epic being one of them in Madison, that do export their goods or their services. And the whole process of exporting and importing is very detailed at a couple different levels. So having some language understanding to communicate with your customers overseas is really helpful, very important. However, I think most of you know and understand, at least in most of the world, we say that English is the language of international trade, and that is true at certain levels. There might be some difference between if you are dealing with a manager or a director at your customer in Germany. They are very likely to speak English quite well. But at different levels, they may not as much, because their jobs are more internal to the company, and so they're not necessarily needing to use English. So your ability to communicate in another language, European or Asian language, for example, would be really helpful if you work for a manufacturer or an exporter. And on the same note, many companies in Wisconsin and across the country, as you know, do a lot of importing. Much of the goods that we see in our homes or buy at a store are from other countries. So companies in Wisconsin and across the country are importing those goods. And to be able to talk to your supplier, or your vendor as it would be called, sometimes there are nuances of the price, the packaging, the shipping date, who's going to pay for it, and what bank are you using. Those kinds of things are very helpful to be able to communicate and understand. I've studied a couple of languages, French and Spanish, and I'm not fluent in either of them. And it was a while back, but I found that by studying language, I started to understand the other culture much better. And so, for example, in business, when you understand something about the other person's culture, you can kind of read between the lines. Many times people are writing in English, and of course, it's not their first language if they're from another country, perhaps. And so you have to use that kind of unspoken skill and read between the lines, and it helps a lot by learning the language to do that, even if you aren't fluent yourself. I wanted to show you briefly, if I can do that here, who the Madison World Trade Association is. And I had it up and running and I don't see it. Oh, wait, just a second. I'm going to move this around a little bit. So these are the different board members of the Madison International Trade Association. I'll scroll up and down a little bit. So currently our president of the board is Jay Nash. He's in Madison and he does global trade compliance consulting. Carrie is from a company in Milwaukee that does a tremendous amount of business in the import, export, freight forwarding and brokerage field. So for example, working at a company like MITA in Milwaukee, you would be dealing with customers that are buying from foreign countries or selling to foreign countries. And again, that language would be very helpful at a freight forwarder. Jen Pino Jen Pino right here is now with a large insurance company, and they have a subsector of business with agribusiness, which of course is a major Wisconsin export. Jen formerly was with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. They have a staff of people in Madison that work with companies across the state to help them learn about exporting and all the how-tos, as we say. Myself over here with a nice picture when I had short hair. Here's a company in Waukesha, Hydrothermal. They're a manufacturer and they ship all over the world. Henrietta is from Hungary, I think, originally. And she came here just a few years ago. She had some language, English language, but she's been learning a lot more. And she speaks a couple of other languages as well. So she's a real asset to the company. Here's a company you recognize, Trek Bicycle in Waterloo. And Maureen is the VP of International Business Development and started in overall marketing at the company. And I know she's a real proponent of language learning. The Port of Milwaukee is represented on our board. Fiskars here with Yolanta. Yolanta is now at a new company, recently moved over from Fiskars brand over to a company, but the new company she's with is located in the Madison area. So just a few other people here. This woman, Katie Sinnott, is our past president, and she is the VP of International Development at Wisconsin Economic Development Corp. So WDC is a good example of a government agency, but it's a government agency that is purely business development driven, if you will. And they have several people within the international division at WDC that have language, second language capacities as well. Let me just show you a couple things, if I can do this correctly. Here's an event. We run seminars just about every month, or we have sometimes a social gathering. So seminars are open to the public. There is a fee. If you're a student, we have a special student rate, or you can join MITA at a student rate of, I think it's $25 for a student for the whole year. If you're not a student and you want to join as a professional, young professional in whatever field you're in, it's $75. So here's a couple of examples of some events that we've held recently. And normally, hopefully back here in 2021 and 22, the meetings are actually held downtown Madison at the Fluno Center. And I think some of you are probably familiar with the Fluno Center as part of UW-Madison's footprint there. Just on is it on Johnson Street, just down from what used to be the IHOP. So that's how far back I go. I would really encourage any of you to take part and attend MITA and, reach out to me. Felicia has my email and I'll put it in the chat, but I would love to have anyone on the panel or anyone that's an attendee, let me know your interest. And when we start running events again this fall, over the winter and through the next spring, you're welcome to attend. I'd like to meet you and introduce you to others, and let's go from there. And does anybody have any questions?
Yes, so I know you have to leave soon. Otherwise, I would say we'll hold questions until the very end. But we do have two questions in the chat about MITA specifically. One is, does MITA offer internships? And do you provide scholarships for students? Are those two things?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a question we talk about a lot in our board meetings from time to time. I wouldn't say that we have what might typically be called scholarships, but we would, for example, we instituted a student rate, a much reduced rate price to attend our meetings as a way of helping support that. Internships, yes, there are sometimes internships. Now, for example, Anna Garach, who's also from another country, and she's our part-time paid executive director, works at the university. She also works for MITA, and sometimes we hire an intern for a few hours a week to help her with kind of database management, email blasts, LinkedIn postings, that type of thing. But when you're a student intern, obviously you're part of the organization and would be, very, very in tune with what the events are and what's going on. Now we do talk sometimes about how do we help companies who are looking for interns, do that. And sometimes there's, an easy way to do it, and sometimes there's not such an easy way. But anyone that's interested in something like that could reach out to me. I know several of the board members as manufacturers sometimes are open to hiring interns. What you could do, let me think about this a minute. Let's see, I don't think our website currently shows a way to see who our members are. We're actually migrating to a brand new website sometime later this fall, and it might have some of that capacity. Again, if anyone in your group has a real strong interest in that, I can try to help with that a little bit.
Great.
And by the way, I'm in
Milwaukee.
By the way, I'm in the Milwaukee. I'm kind of halfway between Milwaukee and Madison. So you certainly don't have to live or work in Madison. I live in Oconomowoc, which is a little bit east of Madison, about 45 minutes. But I worked downtown Milwaukee, prior, for probably about 20 years. And I was a member of MITA off and on at that time. I'm also a member and a past president of the Milwaukee World Trade Association. So there's more than one group in Wisconsin to get involved with.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aleda.
You're welcome.
It's been great to learn about.
I could slip in and help a little bit. I'm sorry, it's just a really busy time right now and I have to leave. So, but
awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll put some things in the chat. I'll put our web link in the chat. Sorry, thank you.
Excellent. And I'm going to stop the screen share. Oh, if I can. Or maybe I think you have to hit the stop at the top of the screen, I believe.
Yeah, let me find it.